Hi, I'm Deborah Fowler. I'm going to talk a little bit about design in Python in terms of getting used to using parameters, variables, and just being able to make it more effective when you're programming. So let's just start with a very simple program. We're going to create a snowman. First thing we're going to do is import our turtle. This gives you a very simple 2D graphics window, a Tkinter window, which is used, and we're also going to use the turtle drawing functions to put some graphics on a 2D screen. I'm going to first define an object, which is T for turtle, just to save some typing. And then just so that you can see what's happening in here, I'll just have a forward command, move 100, and then just run this so that you can see what's going on. I'm going to go to my desktop, demo, and just call this for now permit.py. So you can see that it drew a line and it's opened up a default window. You can also set the size of that window. So I can say turtle.setup, and I'm going to make it 1,000 units by 1,000 units for the moment. And I'm going to run that again just so you can see that it's a set size now. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to just do a simple snowman exercise. So rather than forward, we're going to just use the function called circle, which is a member function of the turtle object. If those terms are not familiar to you, that's okay. We'll be talking about them later on in the series. So let's draw a circle of, let's do 50 radius. Okay, so the circle function requires a parameter or argument. This is our argument. The function is written with parameters that we're sending in a value that it's going to take as its radius. So if we run this, we get a nice little circle that is 50 units big. Now our drawing function is made to animate, so we want to speed that up a bit. So turtle.speed, we're going to set to, we're not going to turn off the animation, we're just going to speed it up and say, okay, go faster. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And now we got a little bit faster result. Okay, so we have our turtle. Let's say we want to draw something on the top of that circle. Well, with the turtle, it has attributes. It has a position, it has a heading, it has a color. So what we want to do is go to the top of that circle, because circles draw from the bottom in turtle graphics. And to do that, we need to know where to put the turtle. One way to do it is to set the position. The other is to just turn the turtle upwards and have it go forward. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to turn, it's facing down the x-axis. I'm going to turn left 90 degrees. And then I'm going to do a circle, or sorry, a forward. And because my circle is 50 radius, I'm going to go 100 diameter. And let's see where that puts our little turtle. Okay. Here you can see that it now is ready to draw that next circle almost. It's facing the wrong way. If we draw a circle now, it's going to face the wrong way. I'll show you that in a minute. But the other problem is it's drawn this line. So we need to pick up the turtle, move it, and put it back down. Okay, so we're going to do that, and that's really simple. We just go turtle pen up, and then turtle.pen down. So now if we run this, and I'm just going to use the F5 key, and go ahead and run that, you can see now there's no line, and the turtle is facing upward still, but at least it's in the right position. If we want it to face in the correct orientation, we can either turn it back, or we can just say set heading 0, which resets it to be the default setting down the x-axis. Now, if we do that, then we can draw a circle. So turtle.circle, and I'm going to make this a smaller circle. It's going to be the head of the snowman. I'm just going to do a 2-circle snowman for now. And you can see that that all works. If I hadn't done the set heading command, I would have ended up with something that looks like this. And that is because it's drawing from the direction of that arrow, and so it's drawing the circle like that. So turtle has properties that it retains until you change them. So as soon as I say t.setHeading, it's going to set the orientation of the turtle back to pointing down the x-axis direction. Okay, so we now have that. Now, one of the things about this code is if I wanted to make this turtle, this snowman bigger or smaller, I'd have to go in and change each of these values. So if I made the body larger, Let's make this 100 units. Well, I've based where my second one is on this value, so now I have to go and change that forward and change that circle. So if I play this, you can see that it's not going to work, right? Because those were design decisions that I had to make. So I could go in here and change this to 200 and change this as well, or I could leave it as a little head, but let's actually do it in proportion. So I can run this, and now what we have is a nice snowman that's been resized, but we had to go through the code. It would be better if we had defined a variable. So let's say we create a variable called size, or I could even call it radius, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to call that radius and define that as 100. So now, because I know that that circle is being drawn based on that radius, and this forward command is being based on the diameter, so I'm just going to multiply that by 2. And this, well, this one is smaller, but how much smaller? Well, 0.6 of the original radius, so we could do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now if I run this, I get my snowman, and it all works, but now if I want to make that a smaller snowman or a larger snowman, let's make it larger, and I run it, all I have to do is change the radius. So that makes it, and we can't see him because he's way off in the top because I made this too large, so let's change that. Let's make him smaller for the moment. So let's do 30. And I'm going to run that. And you can see that he's rescaling the correct way. That way, I don't have to go through all my code and change it. I just have to change it in one place. So that's really better design than the first design. Now, an even better way to do this would to be put this in function, because what if I want to draw multiple snowmen? Well, that becomes a problem because now I have to, if I want to draw another one, I have to copy and paste. That's not going to work very well. I'm going to end up with a big long piece of code. So what I want to do instead is make this into a function. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll define this to be a function, and I'm actually going to make sure I leave the radius out there. And I'm going to say def snowman, and then just tab this all in, and that defines a function. So using the def keyword, and then the name of the function with parentheses that could or could not have parameters, a colon, and that is defining a function. But if I run this, nothing happens because I haven't actually called the function. So I've defined it, but I haven't called it. So what I want to do then is call the snowman. Okay, good. So now I have that working. And you can see that it's all fine and good. But what we haven't done is we haven't neatened this up. So, for example, this radius could be read by anything, anywhere, anytime, and that's not what we want. What we want to do is have that so that that value is controlled. So what we're going to do is send in the argument to a parameter that I'm going to call radius, and it's going to use that value, and we're going to get rid of that global variable that can be seen by everything and make it a parameter that can only be seen by the function. And that way our data is protected. So that again is a good design decision. Now notice that nothing changed because we haven't done anything different with it. I'm going to change this to a 100 unit snowman and draw it again. And again, I'm making just an arbitrary size right now. Okay, so I have my snowman. The next thing I might want to do is call it several times. So I could do snowman and do, let's say, 50. But right now they're going to draw on top of each other, so I should do a turtle.setPosition to move that snowman over, let's say 100 units, let's do 200 units, and draw it again. Well, if I do that, works, but you can see that that line is going across, and we don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to do pen up, pick up the pen, put it down here, and that way we can draw our snowman. So we're going to surround this with pen up and turtle up, pen down. Okay, So that works pretty good. And we're going to just run this again, and you can see that now there's no line between them. Okay, cool. So there's another command I could also use. I could hide the turtle after. And now when we run it, we get our two little snowmen sitting beside each other. Okay, great. So it's repositionable and rescalable. But this is looking a little bit sloppy. Again, we've got everything kind of running on the main area. We're going to neaten this code up. So again, get it running and then make your code better. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a def draw many. And again, I'm going to define a function, tab this in, and then call draw many. Okay, so now I've got draw many. Let's go ahead and run that. And that all works. So there's one other thing though, which is that again, this is kind of sloppy. I'm going to have another function that's going to control generally my program. And by convention, we're going to call it main. Not that Python cares, but other programming languages have the convention of the main program is the one that you use to control things. So we're going to move this, which is our turtle setup, and our definition and so on into here. And then draw many. And then we're going to call main. Now, there's a problem here because draw many is in another function. So T turtle is not going to be seen by draw many. And if I run this, I'm going to get an error. And the error is name T is not defined. And that's easy to solve, again, by just sending in that information. T is defined in main, so let's send it off to draw many. Now it knows what T is, but we also need to send it to the snowman because otherwise the T in here isn't going to be seen. So again, we're just going to send that in and here as well. So now we have our radius, our values, our turtle all going into this setup. So let's go ahead and run that. And we'll see that now we've got much cleaner code. It's all compartmentalized. It's all nice and clean, neat and tidy. We should add a top block comment. So I'm just going to get rid of a little of this and go ahead and put a top block comment. What should you have in your top block comment? You should have your description of what the actual code does. You will have the author, the date, what it takes to run the program, and what you get out of it. And for some sophisticated programs, you might have an algorithm, which is an outline of your plan. What exactly are you doing? So that's a very simple setup. Okay, so we've got our little snowman. It's scalable and repositionable, so now we could draw many of these snowmen. Now, that's the process of cleaning things up, making them a little more general. So because I was using a size, I can easily do this. We could also have this so that in Snowman, where I draw many, I don't have to have set position constantly. Every time I want to draw another one, I got to do a set position command again. So if I want to draw a third one, let's move this over and so on and so forth. It might be convenient, instead of having to do this every time, let's do this 400, and we'll draw a snowman. Let's make him a little smaller, little tiny guy. And now run that again, and you can see that now I have my 3 snowmen. But the problem is each time I have to draw it, I have t.setPosition. It would be much more convenient to send in the xy coordinates. We could call it x position, y position, and just put that call at the top so that t.setPosition is at the x position and the y position. And that way we can surround it with turtle.pen up, turtle.pen down. And we don't have to have all of this in here. We were just simply going to set this to 0 and 0 and get rid of all this. Set this to 200 and 0. Get rid of all this. Set this to 400 and 0. And then run this. And everything's working. So again, run your code to make sure that if you make a change, you haven't broken anything. If you make a small change, you know where you changed it. You can go back and go, oh, gee, what did I do? Instead of waiting a long time and then you've got multiple things you've changed and you can't remember what exactly happened. Okay, so that's the process of continuously cleaning your code, making it neater, making it a little more general. We could also make this more general. We could turn this into a loop. Let's go ahead and do a loop. So for I in range, or we could even say for number in range, doesn't matter. Let's do 3. Let's keep it at 3. And now I'm just going to make this a product of that I value. So let's just create this as I times, I'm going to go in here, get rid of this, get rid of this. And now let's go ahead and run this. Now right now we're getting the same size snowman because we haven't changed the size, but you can see that we're drawing 3 snowmen. If I wanted to, I could also add, let's see, 50 times I, and incrementally make them larger. Okay, so we've got 50 times I plus 50. So the first one's going to be 50, the second one's going to be 100, and so on and so forth. So again, these are ways that you can make things a little bit more general. So let's go back to our snowman again. I'm going to grab this and just go back to where we were. Back to the very simple turtle dot circle 50. Turtle. Set this up. Okay, so now we're back to where we were. And the reason is, what if you had designed your particular snowman differently? What if you hadn't used dot forwards? What if you would use set position? Not a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we've got our turtle. It's also being slow. So I'm going to do turtle at speed 0. Now we've got our circle. Let's make him a little bit bigger. All right, so instead, we know that we have a circle of some particular kind. We want to put the turtle right there. Now, what we did last time was we turned the arrow up, went up, turned it back, and drew our circle. We could just tell it, I want you to be at the top of that circle. Easy to do, because we know the radius. So we could go turtle.setPos, and then we want to go 0 and 200. Then we're ready to draw the circle again, and let's make the circle 60. So in this case, again, we want to do turtle.pen up, because we're moving the turtle, not wanting to draw. Turtle.pen down, and then we're drawing a circle. So let's see what that looks like. And you can see that now we have very similar, practically identical to the other process. But again, if we wanted to change this, now we've got, again, a problem because we're going to have to change things all over the place. Well, again, we can do radius equals 100. And then similarly, we can use that value in our calls. We want the diameter. So we've just generalized it. It's very similar, and it works. Okay. Now, if we want to have our snowman moving along, it's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and make this into a function. So we're going to leave this out here, and def snowman radius. We'll go one step further, t comma radius, because we already learned that lesson of passing the information in. It's awesome, good. And then we're going to do our def. I'm going to just start with main, and we're going to go ahead and grab this. Control-C, Control-X, paste, indent. Let's see, tab. And then we are going to call our snowman with t and radius. And then we're going to call main. Okay, so we should get the same result, and that's very guessable, right? So we haven't really changed anything. We've just changed a little bit, cleaned up the structure a little bit. But let's say we wanted to draw two snowmen beside each other. Well, we could do the T-set position, but for right now, I'm just going to do T-set position 200, 0, and snowman T, comma, radius. Well, the problem with this is that's not going to work because the T-set positions override that value. So it's not doing what we expect. So what we want to do is we want to have this as an argument. So let's go ahead and do the same thing we did before and do X position, Y position. Okay, so we get rid of this and we set this up at the top of our snowman. And we surround it by a turtle pen up, turtle pen down. Now you're going to see a couple things. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, snowman missing two arguments. We forgot to put our arguments in. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's do 0 and 0, first position. And the second position, let's do 200 and 0. Okay, I'm going to run that. And you see what we get? We get a head that's on this snowman twice. So if we slow that down, let's go ahead and slow that down. We'll go ahead and set this to, let's just comment it out, or we could set it to 10 or 1. 10 would be fast, 1 would be slow, 0 is as fast as it can go. Okay, you can see that it's drawing the first one, it's drawing the second one, it's drawing the first one over, but then it goes back to that one. And the reason is because we have a turtle set position command right in here. So this sets the position to the new position of our base, because we draw a circle with that set position. But this set position overrides that one. So what we need to do is just simply add an offset. So we offset it by whatever position this is supposed to be. And we run that. And now we forgot to put the speed back up, but you're going to see some other problems, possibly. When you do your patterns, you might also need to reset your heading so that your heading is also correct. In this case, we don't need to, but just buyer beware. Okay, so we've got our little snowman, and now what about sizing? So, well, again, we've got radius, so let's change that radius size, 10, and go ahead and run it again. And we can see there's a little snowman, and it's all working. Let's try scaling it up as well. So let's try 120 or 140, something like that. We'll go ahead and run it. A little bit slower. Okay, there's our snowman. And it's going to draw another one. And it's working. Okay, now let's try a variety of sizes. So instead of doing this, let's put in a for loop. And we'll do for I in range 3. Let's do snowman, and we'll do radius. Let's do radius plus, I'll do 50 times I. So we're just going to increase the radius by that expression, and I'm going to run this. So now we have, and I'm going to kill this and restart that so that we have it sped up. We don't have to wait quite so long. And I'm going to run this again. So now we have our snowmen all drawing in the same position, okay, because we haven't changed the position, 0, 0. So we want to change the position. Let's do I times 200 or 100. Now let's do 200. There we go. Okay, and let's just run this again. Okay, so you can see they're getting quite big. Let's start out with a smaller number. Let's say 50 times I. And we'll get rid of radius entirely. We're not actually using that variable anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it here, because the value that we send in here is what this radius in here is using. So we don't need it in main. That's a separate variable, in fact. Okay, so run that again. And we have our snowman. So our first one is being used as 50 times I, which is 0, so it's tiny. So maybe we want to do 10 plus 50 times I. That way we have at least something. Let's go ahead and run. You'll get a tiny little guy, and then a bigger one and a bigger one, okay? So again, I'm just manipulating the expressions, but I wanted to show you the fact that we have now set this up with set position versus forward, and it still all works. Okay? So that's the point of the exercise. Okay, so you can rescale and reposition any pattern that you make, no matter how you originally designed it. It's better if you've designed it with parameters, because then you don't have to go into each forward and set position command. But if you haven't, it's fine too. And down here, as you can see, this is explaining very much like we did. You're adding parameters X position, Y position to move the turtle. If you're offsetting it, you need it to move over. And you're adding a parameter scale factor to your circle radius and forward commands. In this case, we didn't have to add a scale factor because we used radius. If we hadn't have used radius, then we could also have simply set up the scale factor to multiply every time we saw a forward and every time we saw a circle. So that would work as well. So again, different ways to set things up. Okay, hope that was helpful. We will probably do a few exercises similar to this, and then we're going to go ahead and build a quilt. If you're interested in that, let's go back over here and take a look at that, which is on here. There are videos on this as well, but we're going to build a quilt using nested loops, and that is the goal of the exercise. So that's where we're headed towards. Okay. Thank you for watching.